Actually got a message in from Izul Cody. What is even worse about last night's game is the suggestion by Balakov that he didn't hear the racist chants, which is just very difficult. Dan and Rickie, has there been much chat over there about what happened in the Sofia game, in the sense that nobody seems to be talking about the 6-0?
Well, we just kind of heard word of it filtering through while we were making our way out of the press centre in the Stade de Genève last night, that the game had been halted a couple of times and that there'd been racist abuse. As regards the fallout from it, I was actually watching a bit of English TV this morning when I woke up. It's kind of interesting to note the dichotomy of views on how the approach of the England players was taken. I mean, there are some players saying that, you know, the way they went about it is right and that this is a kind of benchmark for the game in terms of how it deals with racist abuse. And there are others, other like ex-black players as well that say, listen, still, nothing's going to happen because of this. Like, this is still going to remain entrenched. And when you hear Krasimir Balakov, the Bulgarian manager, basically saying that, you know, he didn't hear anything. You know, Popov, as captain, went over to the stands and had to plead with some fans to try and tell them to stop. You know, so if he's not speaking to his captain, or if his captain isn't informing him of how bad this problem actually is to the point that he needs to go and intervene, then there's a major issue. There's also, I don't know if you saw this morning as well, there's some press conference footage of Gareth Southgate doing the rounds of one of the journalists, one of the Bulgarian journalists, asking him, you know, the game was very friendly. Like, we didn't hear anything. I think you're over exaggerating and you're making a meal out of this. And, you know, it's that kind of nonsense that is basically going to keep on this kind of behaviour in that part of Europe, you know.
Yeah, this feels a bit like one of those kind of news shows where I'm going from one sort of opposing opinion to the other, both of them on Skype. But Dan, are you going to give kind of a similar version to Rickie on the Irish game tonight, or does everyone think that we're kind of in jeopardy here and essentially we're going to lose?
No, I think this is a type of news program where where the presenter gives their opinion all the time. Like, that's what it is, you know? So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a massive... Yeah, Ivan Yates or something on Fox, John. Like, you know, you're very versatile in terms of what I can describe you as.
Right, okay. You did give... I had to enjoy page 54 where you give an Ireland and then in brackets probable team, because picking a probable team for tonight is not an easy job.
No, I mean, I thought it was pretty easy in Georgia, and I think most people got their probable team correct. But tonight, I fully expect to be wrong. I think it's a bit of a challenge I nearly hope that there's a wild card sort of option there tonight, and it's not predictable because I think, you know, Switzerland are pretty good. Switzerland should have more points than they have, and they probably are the best team in the group. And you know, I think we need something more than just making one or two changes and hoping for the best. Now, to be fair to Mick McCarthy, like, I think that there will be a game plan. I don't think that they're just, you know, the Mick McCarthy and sort of Terry Connor team are just going to sort of wing it, you know, like predecessors might have in circumstances, and sort of hope that the players can sort it out on the pitch. You know, that's not going to be the case. But there's a lot of discussion about Aaron Connelly, who I think will start. I think the real interesting aspect is that Mick McCarthy said he doesn't want him to be isolated. He wants him to receive some support. And I'm just wondering who that support will be in terms of, I guess, number 10 is the populist way of describing it, but that sort of attacking midfielder that maybe he keeps talking about one up front and one in behind, and I'm trying to figure out who that might be. And this is where Callum Robinson or Alan Bryan or Alan Judge come into it. And I just think that the plan overall, touched on this a bit with Rickie and Stevo last night, that the team just needs to be a bit more compact and in shape, and not have the gaps that were there in Switzerland last month. So does that mean the both wingers are vulnerable from Saturday? It's you know, it's possible that could be one scenario, but yeah, you kind of hope that there's a master plan that's been cooked up in the background for this particular game, because making the same mistakes as last month would be criminal.
Rickie, you were in Tbilisi as well. What kind of frustrated me about Mick McCarthy after the game was that he put a positive spin on it, which is fine, but it was almost as if he didn't understand how viable it was to get 3 points against a team who can score, as opposed to trying to get 3 points tonight away to Switzerland, and that was sort of why I was frustrated after it.
I don't think he views these games as equals. I don't think he's like saying that every game, you know, and every side in this group is absolutely on the level, same level. But I get the sense that, much like Damien Delaney was talking about in the show last night, he thought that, listen, we'll have at least a point in Georgia. If we get 3, we manage to pull it off, brilliant. Then we'll go and see what we can do in the last couple of games. And with Dan, and kind of like, I'm interested to see how he changes the approach for tonight, because he does need to get players to be on the ball more, to use the ball better. He mentioned it, that they weren't happy themselves in midfield and how they performed in Tbilisi. And to be honest, and I mentioned it yesterday morning, like, they offered nothing. And so I'm kind of interested to see who he has to support Aaron Connelly and how he reshapes the midfield to accommodate that, because the more I've kind of thought about it, it's something I mentioned to John as well in News Talk Breakfast. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion, because McCarthy, we were talking yesterday, he'd want to make minimal changes. Like Enda Stevens, we can be damn sure is going to come back in the left side of defence. We know that Connelly is more than likely going to start. I can't see him making 3 changes or more, because then it kind of seems like panic stations. So with that in mind, I'm kind of imagining someone like Jeff Hendrick or McLean, who have played in that role before, supporting the main striker. And personally, I wouldn't be fond of either of them doing that. But I can see that will be the role that they will have to possibly pursue tonight.
Yeah, is McLean vulnerable tonight, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I think it's worth looking at. I mean, again, like, some of the grief that McLean getting, in the sense, he's done nothing in this campaign. I mean, Ireland wouldn't have got a point against Switzerland without James.
Absolutely.
McLean, last month. But I do wonder, is there a sort of half an argument to keep him in reserve for later on, when the game actually almost applying the argument to the other night, that with Aaron Connelly, in a very different way, in a more blunt way, that if Switzerland are getting a bit more tired and the game is getting a bit more stretched, that actually maybe McLean at that stage and his energy, he could be an interesting impact sub. He could sort of rattle a few cages. But I think Mick McCarthy really feels that the service that McLean offers in terms of covering ground and his energy and his ability to get back and defend for a tough away game, I still sort of feel he'd probably play him. But I do think there's a different type of option there on the left might allow the team to play a bit more narrow through the middle and look to the full-backs for the width. But I'm not sure that is something that he will do. He probably should be vulnerable.
Surely O'Dowda must be knocking on the door at this stage in some position or other.
Yeah, O'Dowda's one who hasn't really he hasn't pushed on in this campaign. Now, the problem for O'Dowda was that when he probably had his opportunity around March and summer, he was in the bad books of Bristol City and went a long run without a game. And to be honest, he hasn't. Callum O'Dowda, sort of the first 6 months of last season, was probably one of the top players in the championship. It's not an exaggeration, but I mean, he hasn't really played that much since. He still hasn't got back into the Bristol City side and signed a new contract. So he sort of hasn't progressed. And he's someone who can sort of run with the ball and carry a ball. And part of me wondered if he almost would be another wild card sort of option that could play centrally but support a striker. That's another name to mention. But he's probably more comfortable on the right, and yes, Robinson has played there. So it doesn't seem like he's mad up his thoughts. He's madly prominent in McCarthy's thoughts, but he's another one who's definitely got plenty of ability. I wouldn't be sad to see him come in at all.
Rickie, what have the press conferences been like, and I guess interviews with staff? Because to me there appear to be echoes of the O'Neill era, where you have a kind of a slightly prickly type atmosphere, particularly McCarthy, kind of as Dan has in the back page today. It doesn't feel like we're one win from the Euros. Ireland boss can't understand why his excitement isn't shared. I would argue it's hard to be bloody excited about this team at the moment.
Yeah, I mentioned it to Malone, the Irish Times, yesterday afterwards, when McCarthy came out with that comment that, we may be 1 win away from qualifying for the Euros, but we're also probably 2 games away from not doing, and that's the reality that faces us. But, to be fair, he is right. There is a sense that we are, 90 minutes away from playing the Euros on home soil. Why aren't we excited about that? The problem is we put in performances like we did against Georgia on Saturday, and that really has dampened expectations coming into here. We put in performances like we did in the majority of the home game against Switzerland, which, for all the rallying of falling behind and the late David McGoldrick goal, we were pretty poor for a chunk of that game, and we have been pretty poor for chunks of other games too. That is kind of the worry coming into playing what Dan has pointed out there, the two best sides in the group. We're playing them away and home over the course of the next month or so, and that's a very, very difficult ask to try and get 3 points from the two of those and try and qualify above them for the Euros. One thing I will mention as well that may do work in our favour, so I know a couple of people that are down in ground level for training last night, and they said that the pitch in Geneva here isn't great. It's been absolutely tipping it down since, I think, the wee small hours in the morning, and is going to continue to do so for the rest of the day. That pitch ain't going to be great this evening. We saw before, if you cast your mind back to 2008, what torrential rain can do to the pitches here in Switzerland. So you never know. It could be one of those weird quirks that ends up working in our slightly clay-footed favour. Slightly
clay-footed, yeah. It's kind of that grim narrative that the pitch may be crap, and that's going to help us because it'll bring them down to our level. Dan,
sure, listen, you take what you can.
Yeah, no, unfortunately you're right. Dan, I was behind the goal for the game, Tbilisi, and I was behind the goal for the first half against Switzerland, so I was behind the Irish defence, and what really strikes me is when the defenders get on the ball, particularly the fullbacks, their options are so limited, be it going down the wing because maybe the wingers are kind of coming back into defence positions, or quite simply the midfielders are not looking for the ball. Can you get your head around why these talented midfielders just go through games like they did against Georgia with virtually no impact in terms of actually getting the foot on the ball?
No, I mean it's a frustration, and look, it hasn't worked in those couple of games, and I'm not so sure that it's like a tactical demand. I mean, at times I think maybe in the previous regime there might have been times where it was very much about sort of turning and getting up the pitch and trying to turn the team, but on Saturday there was a couple of times where Hendrick and Conor Heron, they were trying to get forward, but not really not constructively, and then they were getting ahead of the game, and Georgia were winning the ball, and Ireland were exposed. And as I said, there was these big gaps, and I don't know what you would describe it as. It's players not taking responsibility or having belief in themselves. And I know the pitch wasn't great on Saturday, and maybe a sort of lack of belief kicks in that players don't want to be, getting into positions where you could give cheap position away in your own half. I don't know. You need to be in a proper discussion, probably away from the microphones, really, with people involved in the squad to understand why they feel they struggled in that area.
Dan, I know you're a big fan of rugby and all that, but do you remember Brian O'Driscoll's 3 tries in Paris that time?
No.
You actually genuinely don't. You don't remember that?
I've seen them on Reeling in the Years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you remember them, Richie?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I remember watching them in front room home. Yeah.
I'm not sure what year that was. The lads might be able to help me on that.
2000, was it?
It was 2000.
2000, Johnny. Come on.
Is there a chance? Is there? I love Reeling in the Years. I love
Reeling in the Years,
and so does RT because it has it on every second night. But is there a chance? Is there a chance that Aaron Connelly could have a performance tonight that has us going, oh my God, what do we have our hands on here?
But Johnny, I think you've become sort of somewhat obsessed with that prospect. I mean,
I haven't at all.
You posted a beautiful picture of the Tbilisi skyline the other day and managed to equate it with Aaron Connelly.
I'm not sure I was trying to do any equating there. It was just I want to post a nice image and make a relevant point about the game.
A young boy from Galway who's made it big, similar to yourself.
Wow.
It is.
Johnny can never be described as making anything big, can he?
Or being young. Dan, just answer the question. Could Connelly announce himself in an OMG type performance tonight?
He's come a long way. Well, I mean, I would hope that the OMG expression wouldn't be used in any circumstance. You hope so. It's a great story. It's something that everyone would latch onto, and it would completely change the language around the team. If Connelly had stuck that chance away late on Saturday,
horrible
the whole mood would have changed, and it would have been about Aaron Connelly, and the details. A lot of the details of the match would sort of have been forgotten, albeit temporarily. But people would have latched onto this positive story. You'd like to think so, but I mean, it's a lot to expect as well. That all of a sudden, this is a Messiah type figure who can make it happen.
Is he a Messiah type figure, Richie?
No. And nor should he be viewed as such. He's a 19-year-old kid, and he might be somebody who can dig us out of a hole in the last couple of games of this European qualifying campaign. But let's not forget, we have a raft of players of his age and his caliber coming through once Stephen Kenny gets the job. And the hope is that kind of level of dynamism won't be solely on Connelly's shoulders.
What do you predict tonight, Dan?
I fancy Switzerland, to be honest. I think they should have more points than they have, and for them, and Mick McCarthy did make the point, and you can swing this, interpret this in ways that you could encourage Ireland. I think his line was, it's not a do or die game. Well, actually, it is for them. And that's true in the sense that if Switzerland don't win tonight, if it's a draw tonight, Switzerland are relying on favours, which is a strange position for a team to be in that probably should be nearly through already on the balance of play in their games. And I just think when it comes down to it, at home, they might just produce the performance, and Ireland might just regret what happened on Saturday. I want to be wrong, but that's, you asked for a prediction, and that is my prediction.
Rickie?
I'm the most pessimistic so-and-so at best of times, and will always look on the dark side.
Dark side?
A slight sneaking suspicion that we're going to nick something tonight, and I'll be honest, I think we could actually come away from here with a win. I don't really have any evidence to base it on. It's just, I don't think there's as bad a performance coming tonight that we saw from that Irish side on Saturday. I think we will improve. I think Connelly will make a difference to the side, and I think the very nature of us being one game away, McCarthy talked about it being cup final for Switzerland. I don't think he'll put it to the players in those terms, but the fact that we are one win away from qualifying for the Euros, I think is going to be something that the players are well aware of, and will hopefully use to their advantage.
Thanks a million, guys.
Cheers, John.
Cheers, John.